Hey coaches, I'm Brighton West, working with inviteCHANGE to bring you this series of videos about people's coaching journeys. So essentially, these are coaches who turned into coaches, I guess, or officially turned into coaches in the midlife, mid-career times, and how they've gotten from that finishing up one career and going forward with a coaching career. So we're going to have a number of people who tell their story. And today we have Sarah Graves. And you may know Sarah because she's been on this YouTube channel a number of times before. If you're a student with inviteCHANGE, you've probably come across Sarah, but Sarah works for inviteCHANGE now. But that has not always been where she is. She started out more in the restaurant business. So let's introduce Sarah and have her talk about kind of where she started on this journey.
It's so great to spend this time together, Brighton, because this was a conundrum for me too, as I was on this journey. But let's start with restaurants, because that was my passion, got me through college, and got me excited about people. And watching people grow from perhaps a host or a bartender into a manager, into a regional director, the human potential movement really captured me in the Bay Area. And I noticed over time that I was moving from reading about chefs to reading about wine. And it turned out that one day I realized, hey, my new career is wine because that's where I'm putting my passion. So I did wine for almost 15 years and then moved into distribution in the wine industry, taking on and building teams and creating results, sales, enrollment, and having that team grow. So I noticed all of a sudden that I was going from my wine spectator to human potential, emotional intelligence, why Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek, and on and on. And each one of those steps, when I moved, I found that I had to be true to my passion. And while I might have had a great run at Young's Market Company as an executive there, my calling, my true calling my next calling was to be a full-time coach. And that's kind of what you and I thought would be helpful for coaches or would-be coaches to hear is, how did I leave this corporate comfy world and move into entrepreneurial, and some might say solopreneur? What was that journey?
Yes, exactly. I definitely want to dig in. You mentioned the human potential movement, and it seems like that was part of your that's part of influencing you to become a coach. But I guess what I heard was every time you kind of picked up books in your spare time, that was going to represent your next career, was whatever it was that you were passionate about. When you were working during the day, you came home and you read about wine. Yeah. And then when you were doing the wine business, you read about human potential. Yes. So let's go back to, you're in the wine business down in California. Let's talk about the human potential movement and folks you might have met there, how that influenced you.
Yeah, a real pivotal time, Brighton, because that was when I met Janet Harvey, the owner of inviteCHANGE. She was not yet at inviteCHANGE. She too, like me, was in the business. She worked for Charles Schwab at the time. I was working for Jess Jackson. So we got together during this human potential movement and saw a way of living that wasn't just working to live, much more of the life and flavor, and really what we do in coaching, which is seeing what is it that we want out in the world, not what others want from us. And so that shift in focus of living from the inside out really had its origins right there in the Bay Area at that time. And Janet and I stayed in contact over the years, and she did get into coaching. She was an early adopter. I came later after I had the executive experience that I really wanted to have. She had it very early. I had it later. And it really has supported what I eventually started doing with coaching and with inviteCHANGE.
Okay, so you've got this executive position. on in your free time. You're working with the Human Potential Movement. You're meeting Janet, who's about to become a coach. So let's talk about, did you go to night school? Did you quit your job? What was the actual transition? So you were at the point where you've got it in your head that this. Well, actually, you know what? Maybe I'm putting words in your mouth. So you understand human potential, but did you understand what coaching was, and that was a place that you wanted to go?
Yeah, great question. I did not know about coaching in 1991. I found out about it in the late 90s, and that was really through a couple people, and one of them was Janet. So I didn't know about the ICF until the 2000s. I first started with a coaching school down in California in 2002, 3, 4, 5, somewhere in there. And when I got the promotion to work at Young's as an executive, there just wasn't enough time to learn a new job and keep taking night classes and traveling for weekend workshops. So what I did was I took a break and I put myself full into the new role and building that department, building those teams and supplier relationships. And about 5 years in, my hunger came back, my thirst came back, and I couldn't not do it. So I went back to school, to coaching school at inviteCHANGE this time, and I was able to do it in the late afternoons or evenings. And then I did coaching clients a lot of times in the evening or early mornings on Saturday and Sunday that both worked for them and for me. So I was building my hours, getting my training, having my mentor coaching, all of this while working a 50-hour a week job and having 2 children and a very supportive husband and family.
Yes, it sounds like you had your hands full, but clearly you didn't just, stop what you were doing and start something new. It seems like a very common thing to just kind of like work on building up your new career before you were ready to jump in. What is the point at which you figured out that you were going to end the wine career and make the coaching career the thing?
It was when I kept introducing coaching as an internal possibility with our leadership. And I did that with the regional leadership as well as the national leadership to explain how coaching was evolving in the business world, and many organizations had internal coaches. So I had been using the material and working with my team, and they were having an unbelievable experience of themselves, double-digit growth, and really a lot of them were getting promoted, moving on to other gigs. That was a reflection of how I was using coaching techniques internally to empower them. And when I got the no over and over, it was clear that I had to walk my talk and move on. And that process, I had a really amazing coach, and we worked out a plan for a year, looking at how long it would take me to do some different things in my private life to make that move. Well, that year came and went. And on the day that I was to give my notice, it was clear that I had not checked all of the boxes, and I was literally crushed, crying, a little bit of tears, a little bit of emotion. And she just looked at me, and as coaches do, she gave me and gifted me a reframe. She said, "Sarah, what about this last year could have been a dress rehearsal? What would you do differently to make the next year the real deal, the real show?" And it took me some time and lists and evolution, but we put together a plan, and that plan absolutely worked. And I gave my notice and had one of the best going away parties a person could ask for as I moved into coaching.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that story, especially the idea that you had that plan and it just didn't quite work out, and that you didn't just throw in the towel at that point, and that you had a coach. I think this is going to become a recurring theme in this series, is that people becoming coaches, having coaches is I don't know if I'd say a necessity, but a really good idea just to help you move through that. And it wasn't something like your coach told you X, Y, or Z. They were a coach. They helped you, maybe framed it so that you could figure out that it was going to be okay and that you were going to get
Yeah.
there. So you've had your big going away party, and what is it like? What is moving into coaching look like in that first, say, year?
It was really challenging to go from 30 years of a career with lots of people, high social interaction, a lot of events, a fair amount of travel, to me, myself, and I, solopreneur. And yes, I had clients that I brought into my new world. And I was also networking, looking to get new clients. And I think I had a thought that comes up for a lot of coaches, that my clients are going to be somewhere out there in the ether, somewhere out there in the globe. And one of the things that we were just meeting with ICF officials yesterday, talking about how important it is to recognize proximity, that the people that are nearest to you are going to be the people that you will be working with. And I couldn't quite conceive it. It was like a blind spot to me that I was going to be working with the very people that I perhaps had hired, promoted, etc. And even some of them who had gone on to other companies, that they would bring those companies to me and to inviteCHANGE for us to work with and do our enterprise solutions with. So it took me, that first year was challenging financially, but I had set myself up to last a full year without any worries. And it wasn't until the second year that I really had to do what I would say, like actors who will tell you, oh, I bartended for 10 years before I got my Oscar or whatever it is. I drove Lyft and Uber for about 9 months just to make sure that my family was extra taken care of and my husband wasn't out there on a limb. And so I got my social interaction with people, because there's a lot of people coming and going. And I also crafted my story. I listened to the questions that people asked me, because the first question they'd say, what do you do besides being a driver? And I would say, I'm a coach. So then that led to different questions. And so I was really using that time to craft my story, learn about what would have people hire a coach, because some of them had coaches, and really use it as a way to learn more about my own sales and marketing and confidence. And at the same time, I was involved with the local chapter of the International Coach Federation, ICF.
Okay, actually, Sarah, I got to stop because I want to like kind of simmer here on this idea of Uber Lyft. I've forgotten that you'd done that. I remember we talked about it once. When I was building my business, I was actually charging the little Lime scooters. So similar type of thing. It's like you got to do what it takes, but it never dawned on me that Uber and Lyft would be such a great way. First off, if you've got a car, it's pretty much open to you as long as the car is relatively new. But that it would be such a great way to hone your skills of sharing what you do, sharing who you are, sharing what coaching is. That is a really, I guess, is that something you thought of before you jumped into that Uber Lyft opportunity?
No, definitely not. It was, I was enrolled by my sister who was doing it, and we had two very different ways of working with customers. The coaching piece, there were times where I actually shut off got the person to their place, and we shut off the meter and continued to talk for 10 or 15 minutes. It did happen. And it was, again, some coaching practice, but also realizing what the good that can be done out in the world with coaching at an ad hoc or improvisational level.
That is so great. So you were delivering people to their destination, but also delivering value on your way. And I just, one of the reasons I want to sit here is because there's folks who are viewing this video. How many of you are in that situation where you're a struggling entrepreneur we're in a time period where kind of this, I can't remember what it's even called, the gig economy. So there are opportunities to deliver food and deliver people and charge scooters. There's so many little ways that you can make money to try to stretch out your runway, I guess. So Sarah's runway took her into, I cut her off on talking about ICF Oregon. So I want her to continue there.
Yeah. I'll jump back in because the chapter was really helpful. It was in its forming and reforming stage of becoming exclusively an ICF charter chapter, and being on that board of directors. And I did everything from the events to getting enrolled in the president-elect, which is a 3-year role, president-elect, president, and then past president. And because of some circumstances, that ended up being about 4.5 years. And it helped me tremendously, both in getting excited about the profession and the benchmarks that were being raised at the time by the ICF, like higher and higher professional standards. And that really excited me about the industry and how we can be viewed worldwide, and the fast-paced growing of the coaching as a professional. So that helped me with my identity. It helped me with the community, and having a place to say, yeah, I'm on the board of directors at the local chapter, and trusting and leaning into the community to help me with my practice, with my revenue streams, seeing the creativity that coaches have with different revenue streams. It's not just their practice. And so that was exciting to see their creativity and the way of doing business.
And I want to say, Sarah, I think you cut yourself short a little bit there on 4.5 years, because I was involved with ICF Oregon and remembered you being president on many occasions when someone needed to step forward if someone couldn't finish their term or whatnot. So you've been wonderful for the ICF Oregon group. And I think this is also a great plug for local chapters. I've been involved in a number of different local chapters down in San Diego too. And it really is a wonderful place to learn from one another. You're not going to find clients in that room necessarily. You might, but it is a great way to understand how people are getting clients, or how people are coping, or how people are charging scooters or whatnot. So local chapters, definitely something to get involved with if you are a newer coach or even an experienced coach. But I want to go back a little bit, because I think you started to talk about inviteCHANGE, but I don't think we've quite covered that, like how you went from being, kind of on your own to being part of a larger group of coaches and a coaching school.
After graduation, I helped out with sales and marketing, and Steve Thorson, a former Boeing senior manager, he was excited about being part of it, and his excitement got me excited, because here Janet had been focused on the coach education and on her own doing businesses who wanted her coaching and team coaching abilities. And what we identified were some key dilemmas that entrepreneurs, mostly CEOs of businesses, what kept them up at night? And what did we have in our coaching solutions that could meet those demands, to meet those dilemmas? And so we created what was eventually called the enterprise solutions. And with that, we've done everything from team coaching and individual coaching for high potentials all the way up to executives, but also programs that would help people with their communication, with the things that cause them anxiety or discomfort at work. A lot of it's communication based, but it also stems from mindset. And a fixed mindset can only look at something a certain way, bringing in the generative mindset, which is key to both coaching, but also at inviteCHANGE. That is the key for people. And it just opens up their world, gives them a level of confidence, lowers anxiety, and creates curiosity that just builds relationships on top of the transactions. A lot of companies just linger in transactions, and that's why there's so much turnover and lack of satisfaction for people in their jobs.
Okay, well, I didn't. This is great. I'm learning more history of inviteCHANGE as we go, of how it, the coaching school kind of morphed into having this second thing of actually getting out and coaching. So, but I want to talk a little bit about that too. So, are you only with inviteCHANGE now, or do you still do things kind of as an independent coach?
I am an independent contractor, and I have my own coaching practice called Segue Coaching and Consulting. And I actually have a couple of clients that I have had since I started coaching full time. And
Wow.
someone might say, well, shouldn't they graduate and move on? Yes, and a lot of people do. Also, people love to have that coaching voice that they can bounce things off of, especially people that are moving quickly and moving out of jobs into new promotions and new companies. So I have a couple of people that have done just that. They've started their own companies. They've moved 3 times, and every time they're moving up in their career. And so having a coach that knows them and knows where they're heading, but also is busting their own biases and making sure that both as coach and as client, we don't get into plateaus or comfort zones, but that we're committed to that growth and the breakthroughs that are possible when you're really committed to your own growth through your work.
I want to know if people can reach out to you now. So if you're watching this video and you want to learn about coach education or how ICF works or anything like that, we've got Lori Johnson, who's on staff at inviteCHANGE, and she's going to help you with those questions. Her contact information will be down below. But Sarah, you've been so generous in sharing. How can people get in touch with you?
The best way to get in touch with me is probably the LinkedIn, and I am on there every day, and I set up virtual coffees, phone calls, Zooms. I really love to talk to people who are in the transition, because there's so much uncertainty when you're leaving something that's so comfortable and so cushy and all just taken care of for you. And now you're going to be your own producer and creating your life from this uncertain place and moving into certainty. I think, Brighton, I've told you my metaphor is the bridge, between the corporate career or whatever you've been doing and moving into coaching. There's a bridge time, and each step across that bridge gets you closer. And some moments I certainly had abject terror and fear of leaving my known into the unknown, but having a coach and creating that confidence and trust and staying in the generative mindset really helped me get to the other side.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on being on the other side. And I want to wrap up the video, but before we wrap up, I want you to give a tip for someone who's maybe earlier on in the journey than you are now. Maybe they're working in a corporate job and thinking about becoming a coach, or maybe they're starting to get their coach training. So what tip would you have for someone who's viewing this video?
I would say that whether you are offered something inside of your company to get some coach education, get it. Because no matter what, those tools will work in whatever conversation or whatever situation you find yourself in. And as you're in it and you get the calling, surround yourself by people who are going to be supportive, have those conversations, get your family and friends and community on your side so that you have that support.
Wonderful. Well, hopefully everyone who's watching has a great support network. And if you're looking for a good support network, of course, the school that you work with, Invite Change being a great one, is going to help you build a support network. So thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you all for watching. I've got a couple more videos up here. There's going to be one with Brian. He is an internal coach, and it talks about his journey. And then I've got other videos down here, which are videos of coaching, along with having mentor coaches watch over and give you advice. So thank you so much, and I'll see you in another video soon.